This podcast is not sponsored or supported by any business or organization. The views reflected on these podcast episodes are my own. Please be aware I am not a medical expert, travel agent, or any other kind of expert. Hey everyone, welcome to the Eat, Explore, Love podcast. I'm Ashley. This podcast is based off of my blog of the same name, Eat, Explore, Love. It talks about the unique challenges in traveling around the world when you have celiac disease. Due to sort of popular demand, I decided to also record a podcast to delve a little deeper into my travels and the lessons learned along the way. Welcome to another episode of Eat, Explore, Love, the podcast. This week we're talking about the city of Madrid. I didn't completely love Madrid, the city itself, but it was ultimately a really good trip and a good time. Madrid kind of reminded me of Milan, but I got to meet some really amazing people and other solo travelers and bond with them, and it was absolutely amazing. So can't wait to talk about it on this week's episode. Some restaurants that I went to and can recommend, but again, always check out the blog so you can see the spelling of everything, because we all know I'm horrible at pronouncing things, and that way you could check things out yourself. But one of the places that I went to was Freedom Cakes Diner. The goal of it is to be an American-style diner. There's not a lot of good gluten-free options, but it did the job of a quick and easy breakfast when I needed one. So it's not the greatest breakfast you're ever going to have, but you do get something to munch on before you have to start your day. Aim Gluten-Free was obviously a gluten-free bakery, and it was so good. Really recommend it. So many amazing options. Go check that out. Madrid Grill Gluten-Free is a gluten-free restaurant, and I didn't love the food and the staff wasn't the friendliest, but it was nice to be able to have a place where I could go to where I didn't have to worry, is this actually gluten-free? Did they understand me? All that other nonsense. So a good place to just check out if you want to make sure you have a worry-free meal. Tierra Burrito Bar. I stopped here with some friends, and they were really great at this restaurant and really patient in making sure I had a good meal with no cross-contamination. So go check that out. They were really patient. It was more of a to-go place, so you go and I put a bowl together for myself. They do have quesadilla wrap options that are gluten-free as well, and I loved how focused they were. La Pomarada was another place I went to with people I met on the trip. It's really loud there, and the waiter served me originally a plate that wasn't gluten-free, so I would just make sure that they're paying attention and that they're repeating back to you and that you keep asking and confirming. But they do take it seriously when they've got it all together, and they're really kind and nice, and the food was good. Deliciosa, again, we all know I'm pronouncing it wrong, so check it out on hieatexplorelove.com. But it's a 100% gluten-free establishment that was really good, and the staff was great, and I even went back, so recommend that place. Booked all my tours through Guru Walks, so I didn't have the greatest tours, and maybe that's perhaps why Madrid wasn't the greatest city to me. I would perhaps maybe look into other options other than Guru Walks and what they offer, or hope that you get a different tour guide than me. For Madrid Highlights Free Walking Tour, the tour guide I had for this spoke so quickly, I had no idea what he said, and it was a pretty short tour, and there were a lot of stops, but you didn't really get to see much of the city. It was basically him just showing a bunch of different restaurants. But on that tour, I met other solo travelers, and we became friends and hung out that entire day. So that was really nice. The other tour I went on, the Battle for Madrid, Legacy of the Spanish Republic. I really wanted to know more about Spain's history. I was about to go on a bunch of tours in the following weeks about World War II, and I was listening to podcasts about World War II. I was kind of World War II historied out, but it was just me and one other person on the tour, and the tour guide wasn't from Spain. He was from the UK, and the tour became more about World War II than it became about the Spanish Revolution, which is an important war in the context of World War II, in that it happened between both world wars. Mussolini and Hitler sponsored the fascist movement in Spain in the revolution, and it was kind of testing the waters of what they were going to be able to do for World War II, but I didn't get to really learn too much about the revolution. So I guess it would be interesting if you're into history and you don't have one other person on the tour that's going to commandeer the entire conversation. Old Town Tour was probably my favorite of all the tours I went on. This was a part 1 tour, and apparently there's a part 2, which I didn't know until it was too late. So try and make sure you connect with the touring company, which you can find on the Guru Walks app, and you can connect directly with the actual company that runs that tour and see how to work all that out. So yeah, those are the tours I went on, and hopefully it's a better experience for you guys than it was for me. My lesson for the week is about kindness, and I had a really interesting experience. So I met these 2 folks on a tour. One was from the UK, the other was from California. They were really sweet and kind. We had lunch together, and then we met up later on in the day and watched the sunset, and the girl from California brought some folks that she knew from that were at her hostel with her, and then we all went and got dinner together afterwards. And after dinner, walked home with the guy from the UK, and as we were walking, we were talking, have a great time, and I am always willing to check myself as I wreck myself, as we know with the other podcasts, and check my biases as I go through the world. But so as we're walking, this unhoused, I believe that's the term now that you're supposed to use, man comes up to us, and in my experience from living in New York, I have learned as a safety issue of do not engage, don't acknowledge, don't talk, just ignore and keep walking. That doesn't work, by the way, in cities like Paris, because when I did that, they just kind of followed me until I acknowledged them, but that's for the Paris podcast. So I kind of approached it the same way. I was about to ignore, go, continue walking on. But the gentleman that I was with, he spoke and said, I'm in Spanish. They were communicating, and he was saying, I'm so sorry. I don't have anything for you, but I hope you have a lovely day. And then we kept walking on. I said, you're a much nicer person than me, because I would never do that. I just keep walking. And he said, well, there's still a human being. And I said, yeah, I totally agree with you. I just, for safety reasons for me, I just keep walking and explain what I just explained. And he said, yes, but how often does that actually happen where they're going to be following you because you said a kind word and said, I'm so sorry, but I can't help you, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your night. And I had to take a second and really navigate of, do I need to be a better person and what is the best way? And I think it's about the vibes, because like I just said, in Paris, I had a very different experience where I kind of kept to myself. I was by myself. I was hearing a lot of stories lately. New York and Paris, lately I've been hearing a lot of really bad stories, especially for solo female travelers. So I just wanted to keep to myself. And there was someone walking around with items, and men kept approaching me or kept walking past and offering, like, do you want a water? Do you want a rose? Do you want a whatever? And I would just look at my phone. I was sitting on the ground with my back up against a fence. That way no one was coming from behind me, and just really within myself. And I looked at my phone, so I wasn't engaging and I wasn't being rude. I was making sure my attention was elsewhere. And then they would make sure to get into my business until I acknowledged them and start following me if I tried to walk away. So I think, and when I said, and that point I did get nasty, and I would say, no, stop. So I think and the other times I've been to Paris, by the way, I did not have that experience. I'm not sure what happened there. And in New York, there's all these horrible stories about women getting punched in the face. I don't really know the details of those scenarios, but I'm actually quite nervous for when I go into the city the next time. But in New York, it is most of the time, I probably could smile and say, I hope you have a lovely day, and keep moving on. So I'm actually quite curious of other people's experiences of what they do and what they feel is the best. And is there a one size fits all? Because as I keep going from city to city, it doesn't seem like there is a right answer, because I think it's easy for someone to say, well, they're still a human being. Of course, that is never in question to me. But it's also a matter of my safety and am I being paranoid? Because I listen to a lot of true crime podcasts. I watch a lot of true crime shows. I watch a lot of procedural shows. All it takes is me to be kind to the wrong person. And am I just being super judgmental? And is it not really someone in a rough circumstance that I need to worry about? I also need to worry about people in the best of circumstance. I also keep to myself and don't engage in that way either. I'm an equal opportunity offender as far as not being the kindest to everybody when I'm solo traveling, because I just don't want to attract attention to myself, and I don't want to open doors for anything to happen. So I guess I am trying, once he said that to me, I do want to learn how to treat people with more kindness. Safety is not an excuse for being unkind. So again, if anybody has their own stories or their own opinions on the matter, I would love to hear it. Reach out at hieatexplorelove@gmail.com. And I would love to hear your opinions. But that was my trip in Madrid, and it was not my favorite city, but it was still a really magical trip. So here's time for the wrap-up questions. Do I feel the city is safe for those with celiac? Yeah. Favorite place to eat? Probably, what a good question. I guess Sale Chiosa, being that I went back there. Favorite memory from the experience? The dinner I had with everybody, with the friends I made for that day. It was a really fun night. Is this a city to vacation to or live in? I think both. Is this a place to relax or be active? It's a more relaxed paced city. How are the people? The locals I only met via the restaurants were not super friendly, but the other people that were there were nice. So take that for what you will. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode about Madrid. See you next time. Thank you for joining me this week for all the fun journeys and lessons learned on my big adventure called life. For more information on the different cities discussed, check out the blog posts on hieatexplorelove.com, posted every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. If you have any questions or fun stories to share, feel free to reach out at hieatexplorelove@gmail.com. Until next week, remember to eat well, explore the world, and love yourself. See you next time.
This episode is produced, scripted, and edited by me, Ashley. Special thanks to Sarah Mientka.